My name is Margaret, I am 68 years old, and I am speaking from Texas, USA. Before I begin this story, I want to ask you to please like this video, subscribe and click the notification button so you don't miss any of my upcoming interesting stories. And I would love to know, from which part of the country are you watching this from? Please drop it in the comments below before we continue, because your support is what keeps me going. Now let me take you straight into the most shocking day of my life. It was late in the evening, and I was sitting in the living room, knitting quietly. The house was calm, but a strange uneasiness hung in the air. Suddenly the phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. It was my youngest daughter, Sarah. She was an airline pilot, and I always felt a deep pride whenever I heard her voice. I picked up quickly. "Hello, Sarah, my dear. Are you safe?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Mom, I need to ask you something. Is John at home?" John, my son-in-law. Sarah's brother-in-law by marriage. He was supposed to be working late. I frowned. "Yes, dear. He's here. He came in not too long ago." "Why?" There was silence on the other end. Then I heard her whisper sharply, "Impossible. He just boarded my flight." My knitting needles slipped from my hands and clattered onto the floor. My chest tightened, confusion spreading through me. "What do you mean, Sarah? He's right here in the house." But before she could answer, a sound made my heart stop. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the hallway behind me. I froze, the phone still pressed to my ear. My daughter's voice hissed through the line, urgent and fearful. "Mom, don't move." My lips trembled, my breath shallow. If John was on Sarah's plane, then who was it that had just walked into my house? And that was the moment everything changed. I should explain how all this began, because the story of that night was years in the making. Life hadn't always been like this. I had lived in peace for most of my years. My husband, David, passed away 10 years ago, leaving me to care for the house alone. My children had grown up, married, and moved out. My youngest, Sarah, had always been my shining star. She had fought her way into a career where only a few women dared to go. The cockpit of an airplane. I admired her bravery, even though her job often filled me with worry. My eldest daughter, Rebecca, had married John. From the very beginning, something about John unsettled me. He was charming on the outside, but behind his smile, there was a coldness that sent chills through me. Rebecca insisted I was imagining things, so I stayed quiet. But over the years, I began noticing strange things. John always knew too much. He would show up at places where he wasn't supposed to be. Once, I caught him in the backyard at midnight, digging near the fence. When I asked what he was doing, he laughed it off and said he had dropped his wedding band. But I never saw any dirt on his hands. Rebecca defended him endlessly. "Mom, you're just lonely. You're overthinking." Maybe she was right. Maybe grief and too much silence in my house had made me see shadows where there were none. But now, hearing Sarah whisper the impossible truth, and feeling those footsteps behind me, I knew this wasn't my imagination anymore. I slowly turned my head, my hands shaking, and saw a tall figure moving closer. His shoes tapped against the wooden floor with each step. My throat tightened. "John," I whispered. The figure stopped. The air between us was thick with silence. And then he smiled. But it wasn't John's smile. It was something else. Something darker. And before I could scream, the lights in the house flickered, then went out. The moment the lights went out, the house was swallowed in darkness. My heart hammered inside my chest, so loud I was certain whoever stood behind me could hear it. "Mom, what's happening?" Sarah's voice cracked through the phone, her panic bleeding into my ears. I don't know," I whispered back, my voice trembling. The footsteps started again. Slow. Heavy. Coming closer. I held the phone tighter, pressing it against my cheek, as if Sarah's voice could protect me. My trembling hand reached for the lamp on the table, fumbling to find the switch, but of course, with the power gone, it was useless. Then a low chuckle echoed in the dark. Not John's laugh. No. This sound was deeper, colder, like something that didn't belong in this world. "Who's there?" I stammered, forcing the words out. "Answer me." But there was no reply. Only the sound of breathing, slow and deliberate, as if whoever it was enjoyed my fear. "Mom." Sarah shouted from the phone. Get out of the house. Now. My trembling legs tried to obey. But before I could move, a hand brushed against my shoulder from behind. I screamed and spun around, dropping the phone. The screen lit the floor faintly, showing just enough for me to see the shadow of a man standing inches from me. But his face was blurred in the dim light, like my mind refused to process it. I staggered backward, grabbing the edge of the table for balance. What do you want? The man leaned closer, his voice a hoarse whisper. You shouldn't be alone, Margaret. Not tonight. I gasped. He knew my name. Before I could reply, a loud knock boomed against the front door. Once, twice, 3 times. The shadowy figure straightened and stepped back into the darkness. The knock came again, harder this time, rattling the frame. Mom. Answer me. What's happening? Sarah's voice screamed from the phone on the floor. I bent quickly to grab it, but when I looked up again, the shadow was gone. The room was empty. The knock at the door grew louder, more insistent, like someone trying to break in. My hands shook as I lifted the phone. Sarah, there's someone in the house, but now they're gone, and someone's at the door. Don't open it, she cried. Mom, please don't open it. But as if on its own, my body moved toward the door. Something about the knocking. It felt familiar, almost calling me. My trembling fingers reached for the lock. The moment I touched it, the knocking stopped. Silence. The air was thick, suffocating. My ears rang with the absence of sound. And then, from the other side of the door, a voice I knew too well whispered softly, Mom, it's me. Open the door. My knees buckled. It was Rebecca, my eldest daughter. But she wasn't supposed to be here. She was away with friends, hours out of town. I had spoken to her just that morning. Mom, please, the voice repeated, sweeter this time, almost coaxing. It's cold out here. Let me in. I pressed my back against the door, tears burning my eyes. My head screamed that it wasn't her. But my heart, my heart wanted to believe it. I reached slowly for the lock. And just then, from the phone in my hand, Sarah's voice shrieked louder than ever. Don't open it. That's not Rebecca. I froze, my trembling hand still on the lock. My heart was split in two. One part desperate to believe it was really Rebecca outside, the other screaming that Sarah was right. Through the door, the voice called again, calm and coaxing. Mom, please. Don't listen to her. It's me. It's Rebecca. I came home early. But from the phone pressed to my ear, Sarah's voice rang sharp and urgent. Mom. Listen to me. I just spoke to Rebecca an hour ago. She's still out of town. Whoever that is, it's lying to you. I squeezed my eyes shut, my body shaking. My children's voices clashed in my ears, one begging to be let in, the other pleading with me to resist. Prove it. I suddenly shouted at the door, my voice trembling but firm. If you're really Rebecca, tell me something only my daughter would know. There was silence. For a moment, I thought whoever it was had left. But then the voice came again, softer now, almost too soft to hear. Mom. Don't you remember the night you sang me to sleep after Dad died? You held me and told me I'd always be safe. Please let me in. Tears blurred my eyes. My breath hitched. That memory, it was real. It happened. Only Rebecca would know those words. My fingers brushed against the lock again. Mom! Sarah screamed from the phone. Don't you see? That's what makes it worse. Whoever that is knows too much. Her words sliced through me like a knife. She was right. That detail was too sharp, too personal. If it wasn't Rebecca, then whoever stood at the door knew far too much about my family. My knees went weak, and I backed away from the door, shaking my head. No, you're not her. You can't be her. The voice on the other side changed. The sweetness drained away, leaving behind something cold and sharp. That you'll regret that, Margaret. The knocking began again. Harder. Louder. The entire door shook on its hinges as if it might split open any second. I stumbled back, clutching the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Sarah, what do I do? Run, Mom. Get out of the house. Go now. But before I could move, I heard it. The footsteps again. From inside the house. Behind me. I turned slowly, my chest tightening as every hair on my body stood on end. And there, At the far end of the hallway, in the faint glow from the moonlight seeping through the window, stood John. Or at least, something that looked exactly like him. The sight of him froze me to the spot. John. My son-in-law. He stood at the end of the hallway, tall and still, his face half hidden in the shadows. For a heartbeat, I thought it truly was him. But then Sarah's voice from the phone echoed in my ear. Mom, it can't be John. He's on the plane with me. I saw him board myself. My chest tightened. If John was with Sarah, then who, or what, was standing in my house right now? The figure tilted his head, a crooked smile spreading across his face. His voice was low, mocking. Margaret, why are you afraid of me? Don't you recognize family when you see it? I stumbled backward, bumping into the front door. My fingers clutched the lock, torn between two terrors. The one outside knocking, claiming to be Rebecca, and the one inside staring at me with John's face. Stay away from me, I whispered, though my voice shook. The smile on his lips widened. He took one slow step forward, then another. His shoes tapped against the wooden floor, echoing like a countdown to disaster. And then from behind me, the knocking started again. Fierce. Violent. The door rattled as though it would break off its hinges. Mom. Let me in. The voice outside cried. It's me. It's Rebecca. Please, you're in danger. I spun in a panic, my body trembling violently. Sarah. I cried into the phone. What do I do? I can't fight both of them. Her voice cracked with urgency. Don't let either one near you. Get out of there, through the back door. But the figure wearing John's face was already moving closer. His footsteps faster now. His shadow stretched long across the hallway, reaching toward me like claws. Margaret, he hissed, his voice no longer mocking but sharp, angry. You've kept the truth long enough. Tonight it all ends. My blood turned to ice. What truth? What did he mean? Before I could think, the front door handle rattled violently. Whoever was outside was trying to force it open. Bang! 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 The door shook with each pounding strike. I was trapped. One figure advancing from the hallway. Another desperate to break in. And then, the lights flickered back on. For one split second, I saw them both clearly. The man in the hallway who looked exactly like John, and the shadow pressing against the door with Rebecca's voice. But in that flash of light, I realized something that nearly made my heart stop. Neither of them had reflections in the mirror hanging on the wall. And just as quickly, the lights went out again. The darkness swallowed me whole again. My breath came in quick gasps, the phone shaking in my hand. Somewhere inside the line, Sarah's voice was breaking, her fear bleeding through the static. Mom. Answer me, what's happening? I couldn't speak. My eyes strained, desperate to catch any movement in the dark. The silence was heavy, until a sound cut through it. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Coming closer. The figure in the hallway whispered my name again, but the voice no longer sounded like John. It was deeper, rougher, like something inhuman wearing his skin. And then at the same time, the front door shuttered under another violent bang. Whoever was outside was still trying to get in, calling out with Rebecca's voice. But that voice, it cracked strangely, almost mechanical, as if it were being forced through a broken speaker. Mom, let me in, please, please. I backed into the living room, clutching the phone like a lifeline. My heart hammered so hard it drowned out my thoughts. I remembered Sarah's warning. Don't let either of them near you. But how could I escape? The back door. That was my only chance. I turned toward the kitchen, moving as quietly as I could. My feet barely touched the floorboards, every step feeling like it might betray me. Behind me, the figure's footsteps grew louder, quicker, matching mine. I reached the kitchen door, my trembling fingers fumbling with the lock. For a moment, it wouldn't budge. Panic surged in my chest. I yanked harder, whispering, "Please God, please." Finally, it clicked open. I pulled the door wide and rushed out into the night air. But the relief didn't last long. The yard, once familiar and safe, felt strange. The air was unnaturally cold, my breath puffing like smoke. And there, standing by the garden fence, was another figure. My knees nearly gave out. It was me. An exact reflection. My own face. My own body. standing in the moonlight, staring back at me with lifeless eyes. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the ground. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. And then, all at once, the figure that looked like me tilted its head, smiled, and whispered in a voice that sent shivers ripping down my spine. "You don't belong here anymore, Margaret." The cold bit through my skin as I stood frozen in the yard. My eyes locked on the figure that looked exactly like me. She stood so still, so impossibly still, that even the wind seemed to avoid her. Her smile didn't fade. It only stretched wider, too wide for any human face. I staggered back, my hands shaking uncontrollably. "No, no, this can't be," I whispered. The other me tilted her head again, moving like a puppet with broken strings. And then slowly, she began to walk toward me. Her footsteps made no sound on the grass. Behind me, the door I had left open creaked. My blood turned to ice. I didn't need to turn to know the figure that looked like John was standing in the doorway, his shadow spilling across the porch. I was trapped between him and me. My mind screamed for escape, but my body wouldn't move. I was caught in a nightmare where every exit led to something worse. The other me spoke again, but this time her lips didn't move. The words seemed to crawl directly into my head. "Only one of us can stay," I gasped, clutching my chest as pain ripped through me. My vision blurred for a moment, and in that haze I saw something, memories not my own. A house on fire. A crying child. A shadow watching from the corner of a room. And then I heard it, Sarah's voice faint, coming from the phone I had dropped on the grass. "Mom. Pick it up. Please don't listen to her." The sound snapped me out of my trance. My legs finally obeyed, and I lunged for the phone. But before my fingers touched it, a pale hand, my hand, snatched it first. The other me held it to her ear, smirking as she whispered into the receiver. "She can't come to the phone right now, Sarah. She belongs to me." My heart stopped. I screamed, grabbing a garden tool, an old rusted rake leaning against the fence. With every ounce of strength left in me, I swung it at her. The rake cut through the air, but passed right through her body as if she were made of smoke. She laughed, a laugh that sounded like mine but hollow and endless. Behind me, the John figure finally stepped out into the yard. His voice, low and commanding, joined hers. "Come back inside, Margaret. It's time." I stumbled backward, my weapon useless, my body trembling. Two voices, one in front and one behind, closing in on me. And then, the motion sensor light above the porch flickered on. Bright, blinding white light flooded the yard. For the briefest moment, the figures distorted, their faces twisted, their bodies trembling like smoke caught in the wind. The other me dropped the phone, hissing like an animal. That was my only chance. I grabbed the phone, clutching it tight, and ran toward the gate with every ounce of strength in my old legs. My heart thundered as I pushed it open and stumbled into the dark street. But as I turned back, I froze. Both figures stood at the gate, side by side now, watching me, smiling. And in perfect unison they whispered, "You can't run forever." The night air burned in my lungs as I stumbled down the empty street, the phone pressed against my ear. "Sarah. Sarah, are you there?" I cried, my voice ragged. Static hissed for a moment. Then her voice came through, urgent, desperate. "Mom, listen to me. Don't stop running. Don't go back into the house. Whatever you do, don't let them touch you." Tears blurred my vision. "Sarah, what's happening to me? Why are there two of them, two of me?" She didn't answer right away. All I heard was her uneven breathing, as though she was afraid to say it out loud. Finally, she whispered, "They're not who they look like. They've been here before. And once they choose someone," her voice cracked, "they don't let go." Her words sank into me like ice. I staggered, nearly falling to my knees. The street was too quiet. No cars. No neighbors peeking out their windows. Just me, and the creeping sense that something was following. I forced myself forward, gripping the phone like it was the only thing keeping me alive. My mind screamed for safety, and that's when I saw it. The glow of a porch light 2 houses down. A neighbor's home. "Help," I croaked, stumbling up the steps. My fists pounded against the door. "Please. Somebody help me." After what felt like forever, The door creaked open. It was Mrs. Carter, my elderly neighbor. Her tired eyes blinked at me in confusion. Margaret? What on earth? Before she could finish, I shoved past her into the house. Lock it. Lock the door now. She looked startled but obeyed, sliding the bolt shut. My chest heaved as I leaned against her wall, sweat dripping down my forehead. They're coming, I whispered. Her brows knitted together. Who's coming? I opened my mouth to explain, but then, a knock. 3 slow, heavy bangs shook her door. Mrs. Carter frowned. Now who could that be at this hour? I grabbed her arm. Don't open it. Please don't. But before I could say more, a voice drifted through the door. My voice. Mrs. Carter. It's me, Margaret. Let me in. My heart nearly gave out. Mrs. Carter turned toward me, her face pale. Her eyes darted between me and the door. Confusion clouded her features. But if you're here, who is? The banging grew louder, rattling the frame. The lights in her house flickered, shadows twisting along the walls. And then a second voice joined mine. John's voice. Calm. Low. Terrifying. Open the door. She doesn't belong to you. Mrs. Carter gasped, backing away from the door. Her wrinkled hands shook as she clutched her chest. The house went silent. The knocking stopped. I thought maybe, just maybe, they had gone. But then the back door slammed open, the wind howling through the kitchen. They were inside. The slam of the back door echoed like thunder through Mrs. Carter's house. The lights flickered again, and every shadow seemed to stretch across the walls like living things. Mrs. Carter clutched my arm, her voice trembling. Margaret, what is happening? I shook my head, my own words breaking. They followed me. They won't stop. Please, we have to hide. But there was no time. The kitchen grew darker, the air turning icy cold. Footsteps moved slowly across the linoleum, deliberate, patient, as though whoever was there wanted us to hear every step. Mrs. Carter whimpered, pulling me toward her sitting room. We slipped behind the heavy curtains, crouching low, holding our breath. My phone buzzed faintly in my hand, Sarah's name glowing on the screen, but I dared not answer. The sound might give us away. The footsteps stopped. Silence. And then, Margaret, my own voice, drifting from the kitchen. Mrs. Carter's eyes widened in terror. She squeezed my hand so tightly my knuckles ached. I shook my head, mouthing, "Don't answer." But the voice grew louder. "Why are you hiding? You know you can't run from yourself." A chill crept down my spine. The words weren't just in the air. They seeped into my mind, pressing against my thoughts. Suddenly, Mrs. Carter gasped, clutching her chest. Her breathing turned ragged, shallow. My heart, oh Lord, my heart. "No, no, no." I whispered, trying to steady her, but it was too late. The stress had broken her fragile body. She collapsed against the floor, trembling violently. Before I could scream for help, the curtains were ripped open. I looked up, and there I was. The other me towered above, her eyes glowing faintly white in the dark. Her smile stretched impossibly wide. She leaned down, her face inches from mine. "See, everyone around you will fall. Until you have nothing left." I pulled Mrs. Carter closer, tears streaming down my face. "Leave her alone. Take me if you want, but leave her out of this." The other me tilted her head, considering my words. And then she reached out, her hand cold as ice, and touched Mrs. Carter's face. In an instant, the life drained from her. Her eyes went glassy, her body limp. I screamed, shaking her, but she was gone. The figure that wore my face straightened, stepping back into the shadows. Her voice echoed, almost playful. "You'll be next." And just like that, she vanished. I was left kneeling on Mrs. Carter's floor, clutching the body of the only person who had tried to help me. And then, the front door creaked open. I turned, my heart pounding. John's figure stepped inside. Slowly. Smiling. John's figure stood in the doorway, the dim light stretching his shadow long across the floor. His smile was calm, almost gentle, but his eyes, they burned with something inhuman. I rose to my feet, my hands shaking as I backed away from Mrs. Carter's lifeless body. "You're not him," I whispered. My voice cracked under the weight of fear. "You can't be." The figure tilted his head, just like the other me had. "I've always been here, Margaret. Haven't you wondered why your nights feel so heavy? Why you hear things no one else does? My heart thudded painfully. Stop. Stop talking like that. He stepped closer, the floor creaking under his weight. John belonged to me long before you did. Every whisper in his sleep. Every shadow he thought was a dream. That was me. I shook my head violently, tears spilling down my cheeks. No. You're lying. John was a good man. He would never. The figure cut me off with a laugh, low and chilling. Good. Then why did he leave you alone so often? Why did he stare at the dark corners of the room when he thought you weren't watching? My stomach turned. Memories flashed. Nights when John tossed and turned. Nights when I woke to find him sitting at the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness with wide, unblinking eyes. The figure stopped only a few feet away now, his voice dropping to a whisper. He saw me. He knew me. And in the end he chose me. My breath caught in my throat. My knees weakened. No. Yes, the figure hissed, stepping even closer. And now it's your turn. He reached out his hand. His skin looked human, but his shadow stretched unnaturally long, curling along the floor like smoke. I stumbled back, my foot hitting Mrs. Carter's side. The reality of her still, cold body jolted me, fueling my terror. Desperate, I raised the garden rake I had grabbed earlier. My hands trembled as I held it out like a weapon. Stay back. The figure smiled wider. You think metal will stop me? But something in his tone faltered when the rake glinted under the flickering light. His eyes narrowed, and for the first time he didn't step closer. I saw it. A crack in his confidence. Gripping the rake tighter, I lunged forward, swinging with every ounce of strength I had left. The sharp prongs sliced through his chest. And then, he screamed. Not a human scream. A howl that shook the walls, rattled the windows, and pierced my bones. His body convulsed, flickering in and out like a broken film reel. For a moment, I thought I had done it. I thought I had hurt him. But then he looked up. His smile returned, wider than before. You've only made me stronger. The lights in the house exploded, plunging us into total darkness. And I felt something cold and sharp wrap around my ankle, pulling me off my feet. The force yanked me to the ground, my body slamming hard against the wooden floor. Pain shot through my side, but I barely had time to cry out before I was dragged across the room. I clawed at the boards, my nails splitting, splinters jamming under my skin. My screams filled the house, but no one came. No one could hear me. Let go. I begged, kicking wildly, but the invisible grip around my ankle only tightened. Coldness seeped into my bones, as though something inside me was being pulled away with every drag. The figure that wore John's face crouched low, watching me with unblinking eyes. He didn't touch me. He didn't need to. His shadow did all the work. You're almost mine, Margaret, he whispered. His voice was smooth, almost tender, as though this was a love he had waited years for. Don't fight it. You'll only make it worse. The room blurred as tears streamed down my face. My body scraped against Mrs. Carter's lifeless arm, the cold skin reminding me of what waited if I gave up. No, I couldn't stop fighting. Not yet. With a cry, I swung the rake again, stabbing blindly at the darkness. The metal hit something solid. A sharp crack echoed like bone snapping. The grip on my ankle loosened just enough for me to kick free. I scrambled to my feet, gasping, stumbling backward toward the front door. My chest heaved, every breath a battle. The figure rose slowly, his body flickering in and out, half shadow, half human. His smile twisted. You think you hurt me? Oh, Margaret. His voice deepened, reverberating through the walls. I've only been playing with you. The house shook violently, picture frames crashing to the floor. Mrs. Carter's lamp shattered, sparks flying. And then, the walls began to move. At first, I thought it was the shaking, but no. The walls themselves were stretching, bending inward, the wallpaper peeling like flesh. Dark shapes pressed out from within, as though hundreds of hands were pushing through, clawing to escape. I screamed, stumbling toward the door. My hands fumbled with the lock. Click, twist, slam. I threw the door open and ran into the street. But the world outside was wrong. The houses I had known for years were gone, replaced with rows of crooked buildings leaning into each other like broken teeth. The street stretched unnaturally far, the lampposts bending low, dripping with black liquid. The sky above turned red and gray, a storm without wind. I spun around in horror, and saw that Mrs. Carter's house had vanished. In its place stood a twisted, blackened ruin, smoke rising from its roofless frame. My heart hammered. No. The phone in my hand buzzed again. Sarah's name lit up the screen. I answered it with trembling fingers. Sarah. I don't know where I am. Help me. Her voice came through, but this time it was different. Deeper. Mocking. Sarah can't hear you anymore, Margaret. Only I can. The phone melted in my hand, black sludge dripping through my fingers. And from the shadows of the crooked street, dozens of figures began to step forward, each of them wearing my face. The street was crawling with them. Dozens of figures with my face, my hands, my trembling smile. They moved unnaturally, their limbs jerking like marionettes, their heads snapping too far to the side. They whispered in unison, their voices overlapping into a sickening chorus. Margaret! 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 I staggered backward, clutching the useless rake in one hand. My body shook violently, but my legs forced me forward, stumbling down the warped road. The doubles followed, their bare feet slapping against the crooked pavement, their whispers growing louder. You can't hide from yourself. You can't escape who you are. Stop! I screamed, pressing my hands to my ears. Leave me alone. But the voices slipped into my head, bypassing my ears, pressing against every memory I had ever tried to bury. Flashes tore through my mind. The day John left for a business trip, staring into the corner of the room, as though someone else was standing there. The fire that destroyed my childhood home. The one I never spoke about. A face in the smoke, a shadow watching me even as a little girl. I gasped, stumbling to my knees. The doubles circled around me, their bodies twitching, their smiles impossibly wide. One of them crouched low, staring into my eyes. Her face was mine, but her skin seemed thinner, stretched too tight, her veins black. You've carried us all your life, she whispered. Her breath was icy against my cheek. Every fear, every secret, every shadow you pretended not to see. We are you. We've always been you. Tears streamed down my face. No, I'm not like you. I'm not. The double cut me off, her eyes flashing white. Liar. The others laughed in unison, the sound rising and falling like a demonic choir. Their voices rattled my bones. I stumbled back to my feet, swinging the rake wildly. Stay away from me. The rake passed through most of them like smoke, but when I hit one across the face, it shrieked, a shriek so high-pitched the others froze. The figure crumbled to the ground, dissolving into black ash. My heart skipped. I can hurt them. The others hissed, their smiles fading. They moved slower now, watching me warily. But then a deep rumble shook the ground beneath us. The cracked pavement split open, and black smoke poured from the fissures. From the center of the street, a new figure rose. It was taller than the others, its body long and thin, its face shifting between John's, Sarah's, mine. Every second it changed, stealing pieces of the people I loved. Its voice echoed like thunder. You can't kill what you are, Margaret. You can only surrender. The doubles around me dropped to their knees, bowing toward it like worshippers. And I realized, with a sickening chill, this wasn't just another double. This was the one in charge. The ground shook beneath my feet as the towering figure rose from the broken street, its body bending and stretching unnaturally. One moment its face was John's, the next Sarah's, and then mine, cycling through them like masks it had stolen. The air grew heavy, pressing against my chest as if it wanted to squeeze the life out of me. I gripped the rake tighter, my knuckles white. My mind screamed to run, but my legs felt rooted to the cracked pavement. The doubles around me bowed to the monster, whispering my name in unison. Margaret! 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 The sound crawled under my skin, like 100 insects gnawing at my bones. The tall figure bent low, its shifting face hovering inches from mine. Its voice was smooth, but beneath it, there were layers. Hundreds of voices speaking through one mouth. You've run long enough. You've fought shadows you never understood. But the truth, Margaret. Its hand stretched out toward me, long fingers curling like talons. The truth is, you've belonged to us since the beginning. I staggered back, shaking my head violently. No. I don't belong to you. I never have. The figure laughed. The sound cracked the air like thunder. Do you remember the fire? My breath caught. My chest tightened. Stop. The fire that destroyed your home when you were a child. You thought it was an accident. You told yourself that for years. But you saw me, Margaret. You saw me standing in the smoke, watching. And instead of telling the truth, you buried it. You buried me. Images tore through my mind again. Me as a little girl, huddled in a burning house, my mother screaming for me to run, the smoke choking my lungs. And in the corner, a shadowy figure with white eyes smiling. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. No. That wasn't real. The doubles laughed. Their laughter shook the ground, echoing endlessly. The tall figure straightened, its body rising impossibly high, blotting out the warped sky. It was real. You let me in that night. You've carried me ever since. And now at last it's time. Its hand reached down, stretching, growing, its shadow sweeping across the ground toward me. Panic ripped through me. I scrambled to my feet and swung the rake with everything I had. The metal cut through the shadowy hand, sending a ripple of light flashing across the street. The figure roared, staggering back. The doubles shrieked, covering their faces as if the light had burned them. My chest heaved. My body shook. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. I could hurt them. Gripping the rake, I bolted down the twisted street. My legs screamed in protest, my lungs burned, but I ran anyway. The doubles hissed behind me, their voices rising in unison. You can't run forever. You can't run from yourself. The world around me warped as I ran. The crooked houses leaned closer, their windows like gaping mouths watching. Street lamps bent low, dripping black tar that hissed when it touched the ground. I turned a corner and froze. The street ended at a massive wall of mirrors. Dozens of them, stacked and crooked, reflecting me from every angle. My face stared back, terrified, sweating, eyes wide, but the reflections didn't match. In some I was smiling. In others I was crying blood. In one, I wasn't even human. My stomach churned. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the rake. Behind me, the whispers grew louder. The doubles were closing in. I turned, ready to swing, but then something in the mirrors caught my eye. One reflection didn't look like me. It was Sarah. Her face pale, her eyes filled with fear. She pressed her hands against the glass, her mouth moving frantically. Mom. Mom, can you hear me? My heart lurched. I stumbled toward the mirror, pressing my palms against it. Sarah. Oh God, Sarah. She looked at me desperately. Mom, listen. You're trapped in their world. They feed on fear, on guilt. That's why they look like you. That's why they look like Dad. They want you to give up, to surrender. Tears streamed down my face. Sarah, how do I get out? Tell me how. Her voice broke, her hands pressing harder against the glass. Fight them, Mom. But not with anger. Not with fear. That makes them stronger. You have to face what you've hidden. The fire. The shadows. All of it. Only then. Her voice cut off. A black hand shot through the mirror, wrapping around her throat. She screamed, clawing at it as the tall figure's shifting face appeared behind her reflection. Sarah. I shrieked, pounding against the glass. Let her go. The tall figure smiled through the reflection, its eyes glowing. She's part of you too. If you fall, she falls. The glass cracked under its grip. Sarah's image distorted, her screams fading. No. I swung the rake with all my strength, smashing the mirror. Glass exploded around me, shards slicing my arms and face. I stumbled back, bleeding, my chest heaving. The mirror was gone. So was Sarah. The doubles laughed louder, their voices rising in cruel triumph. The tall figure stepped from the shadows, its body taller than ever, its arms stretching impossibly long. Every time you fight, Margaret, you lose more. Piece by piece. Soon there will be nothing left. I dropped to my knees, sobbing. My body shook from exhaustion, my wounds burning. For a moment, I thought about giving in, letting it take me. But then I remembered Sarah's voice. Her desperate words. Fight them. Face the truth. I forced myself to my feet, blood dripping down my arms. I'm not done yet, I whispered. The tall figure tilted its head, amused. Then run, little shadow. Run. The ground split open beneath me. Black smoke poured out, swallowing the street. The doubles surged forward, their faces twisted with hunger. And before I could move, the ground gave way completely. I fell into darkness, screaming. The fall felt endless. My body spun through the darkness, weightless, as if the world had forgotten gravity. The wind howled in my ears, yet there was no air. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream anymore. My hands flailed, grasping for something solid, but there was nothing. Only the suffocating blackness pulling me deeper and deeper. Then, without warning, I landed. The ground wasn't ground at all. It was soft, pulsing, warm, like the flesh of some living creature. My palms sank into it, sticky and damp. A sour smell rose around me, a mix of rotting meat and burning wood. I gagged, forcing myself to stand. My legs trembled, blood dripping down from cuts on my arms and face. The rake was still clutched in my hand, though the metal was bent from the last blow. All around me, faint lights flickered in the darkness. At first, I thought they were stars. But as my eyes adjusted, I saw faces. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Suspended in the walls of flesh, like insects trapped in amber. Men, women, children, all with their eyes wide open, mouths frozen in silent screams. Their skin was pale, their bodies twisted in agony. And then I saw her. Sarah. Her face floated in the wall across from me. Her eyes filled with terror. She tried to move her lips, but no sound came. My chest tightened as tears burned my eyes. No. Sarah, not you too. I staggered toward her, pressing my bloody palms against the fleshy wall. It was warm. Alive. It shuddered under my touch, as if laughing at my helplessness. Behind me, the sound began again. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I turned, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would split open. The tall figure emerged from the shadows. But now it was different. Its body was no longer shifting between faces. It had chosen one, my own. I stared at it, my breath catching. It was me. Every detail. My gray hair. My wrinkled hands. My bloodied clothes. But the eyes, oh God, the eyes, were pure white, glowing like burning coals. It smiled. My smile. So, it whispered, circling me. You've finally come home. I raised the rake, though my arms shook violently. Stay away from me. It tilted its head, mocking. Stay away from yourself? The doubles began to crawl out of the walls, their faces still cycling through the people I loved. My son-in-law. My daughter. My grandchildren. Their bodies cracked and bent as they crawled closer, whispering my name. Margaret. Margaret. I swung the rake wildly, slashing through one, then another. Each one exploded into smoke, but two more rose in their place. My double laughed, watching. You can't kill them. You can't kill me. Because we are you. Every doubt. Every fear. Every mistake you buried. We are everything you tried to forget. I screamed, thrusting the rake into the ground. The fleshy floor rippled like water, and the faces screamed in unison. Lies. I shouted. You're not me. You're nothing but shadows. The double's smile faded. Its eyes narrowed, cold and dangerous. Then prove it. It raised its hand, and the fleshy walls began to split open. A blinding white light poured through, swallowing the faces, the doubles, even the rake in my hands. The ground shook violently, and I stumbled, barely keeping my balance. My double's voice echoed through the chaos, deep and unrelenting. Face the fire, Margaret, or burn in it again. Before I could speak, the floor collapsed beneath me. Flames roared up from the abyss, and I was falling again, this time into fire. The heat seared my skin, my clothes, my hair. The screams of the trapped faces filled the air, mixing with my own. My lungs burned, and my vision blurred as the fire consumed everything. And then, through the flames, I saw it. A door. Standing alone in the inferno, untouched by fire. Its wooden frame glowing faintly. My heart pounded. My double's voice hissed in my ears. Open it and lose yourself forever. But Sarah's voice came too, faint but desperate, echoing in my head. Mom, don't stop now, don't stop. I clenched my fists, ignoring the fire tearing at my flesh. My legs shook, my body screamed in pain, but I forced myself forward. One step, then another. The door was so close I could almost touch it. And then, something grabbed my ankle. I looked down. A charred hand had risen from the flames, its grip like iron. Another hand followed. Then another. Dozens of them, blackened and broken, clawing their way out of the fire, dragging me down. I screamed, kicking, thrashing, but they held on tighter. The fire blazed higher, the voices shrieking in unison. And just as my hand brushed the door handle, the ground gave way. I was swallowed whole. The fire swallowed me whole. The heat was unbearable, burning my skin, peeling it away as though I were nothing but paper tossed into a bonfire. The screams around me were endless, rising from the charred hands that pulled me deeper into the abyss. My lungs filled with smoke, each breath like knives tearing down my throat. I should have died. I should have burned to ash and disappeared like the others. But I didn't. The fire wrapped itself around me, not killing but carrying. The flames licked my skin, and the heat pressed against my bones. Yet something inside me refused to let go. It was as though the fire was alive, cradling me like an old friend. The world shifted. The ground beneath me hardened. The smoke parted. And when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the abyss anymore. I was standing in my old childhood home. The walls were familiar. Faded blue wallpaper, the wooden staircase I used to climb as a girl, the cracked glass window at the end of the hallway. Everything was exactly the same as the night of the fire. Except it wasn't. The walls weren't whole. They pulsed like living flesh, glowing faintly orange from within, as though veins of fire ran through them. The air smelled of smoke and decay, and when I looked closer at the photos on the walls, the faces inside them moved. My younger self blinked at me from a family portrait. My parents' mouths twitched into distorted grins. No, I whispered, stumbling back. Not here. Not this again. A voice rose behind me. Familiar. Cold. You've hidden from this night your entire life, Margaret. But fire never forgets. I turned. My double stood at the end of the hallway, white eyes glowing, the fire reflecting in its smile. Behind it, the staircase burned, flames creeping upward but never consuming the wood. I gripped the bent rake tighter in my hands, though my palms were bleeding. Why are you showing me this? What do you want? It tilted its head, like a curious child. Not what I want. What you need. The truth. The walls shook violently, and suddenly, I was no longer in the hallway. I was 8 years old again. The room shifted around me into my childhood bedroom. My toys were scattered across the floor. The small lamp on my nightstand flickered. My favorite stuffed rabbit sat on the bed. Everything was exactly as it had been on the night of the fire. I could even hear my own small voice humming softly, a lullaby my mother used to sing to me. Then, the smoke came. It crept under the door first, thin and gray, then thicker, darker. I heard the crackling sound, the roar of flames in the distance. And I remembered. I remembered waking up to the smell of burning wood, to the sound of my father shouting, to my mother screaming my name. But this time something else happened. This time, I saw a shadow in the corner of the room. A tall, thin shadow, standing completely still, its eyes glowing faintly white. My heart slammed against my chest. No, you weren't there. You can't have been there. The shadow smiled. My double's voice echoed in my head. I've always been here. Even then. The memory continued to play. The little girl, that was me, jumped from the bed, coughing, terrified. She rushed to the door, but the knob was too hot to touch. She cried out for her parents. And then she turned, toward the shadow. Toward me. I froze. My younger self was staring right at me, eyes wide, tears streaming down her cheeks. Why didn't you save me? She whispered. The floor trembled. The fire roared louder, crashing through the walls. The younger me screamed as the flames surged closer, swallowing her whole. I covered my face, sobbing. No. I tried. I don't remember. I don't remember how it ended. The double appeared again, walking calmly through the fire as if it were nothing but mist. It stopped in front of me, so close I could see every wrinkle of my own face on its skin. That's the point, Margaret, it hissed. You don't remember. Because you refused to. Because the truth was too much to bear. The fire dimmed suddenly. The walls melted away. And now I was back in the living room of that night. But this time, I saw everything. My father stood in the center of the room, clutching a candle, his face twisted in rage. My mother knelt on the floor, holding my baby brother, begging him to stop. And then he did it. He threw the candle against the wall. The curtains burst into flames instantly, the fire spreading like a wild beast across the room. My father turned, his eyes black with hate. If I can't control this family, I'll destroy it. I screamed. No, that's not true. My father wasn't like that, he wasn't. But the memory didn't lie. The fire raged higher. My mother's screams filled the air. And I saw myself again, standing in the hallway, frozen in terror as everything fell apart around me. The double leaned close, whispering in my ear. You've carried his sin your whole life. You buried it. Pretended it never happened. But it shaped you, Margaret. The fire, the rage, the betrayal. That's why I exist. That's why we all exist. The room exploded into flames. My mother's screams were cut off. My father vanished into smoke. My younger self reached out toward me again, her tiny hand shaking. Save me, she begged. Or become me. I dropped the rake. My knees hit the floor. My chest heaved with sobs. The truth burned more than the fire ever could. All these years, I had told myself the fire was an accident. That my father had tried to save us. That I had simply been too young to remember clearly. But now I knew. He had caused it. He had tried to destroy us. And I had buried that memory so deep. I created the very shadows that now haunted me. The double placed a hand on my shoulder. Its touch was icy, but its voice was calm. Almost kind. Now you understand. You cannot run from the fire anymore. You must choose. I lifted my head, tears blinding me. Choose what? It smiled, its white eyes glowing brighter. Burn with it, or rise from it. The flames closed in again, circling me, pressing tighter, hotter, louder. The voices of the doubles echoed through the fire, chanting my name over and over. Margaret! 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 I reached for the rake again, my hand trembling. My whole body shook with fear and fury. But as I stood clutching the broken weapon, I looked at the shadow, at myself. And for the first time, I didn't see a monster. I saw my pain, my grief, my shame, my past. And I realized the truth. If I wanted to escape, if I wanted to save Sarah, if I wanted to finally live free of this curse, I couldn't keep fighting the fire. I had to walk into it. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and let the flames surround me. They didn't burn this time. They lifted me. The fire carried me upward, away from the shadow, away from the screaming voices, away from the burning house of my past. My body grew lighter, my heart steadier, my tears drying on my cheeks. And then, the flames parted, and I saw the door again. The same wooden door, glowing faintly, untouched by the inferno. But this time I didn't hesitate. I reached for the handle, and just as my fingers closed around it, a hand shot through the flames and grabbed my wrist. I turned. It was my double again. But its smile was gone. Its face was twisted in rage. You can't leave me, it screamed, its voice shaking the entire world. I am you. The flames roared louder. The ground quaked. The faces in the walls shrieked. I pulled against its grip with all my strength, my teeth clenched, my heart pounding harder than ever before. You're not me, I said through gritted teeth. You're what I let control me. And I'm done. I yanked the door open. The light consumed everything. The double's scream echoed into eternity. And then, silence. The silence was deafening. No fire. No screams. No whispers clawing at my skull. For the first time in what felt like centuries, I stood in stillness. My chest rose and fell in calm rhythm, each breath sweet and cool, like drinking water after dying of thirst. I blinked, slowly, afraid that if I moved too quickly, the nightmare would swallow me again. The door behind me was gone. In front of me stretched a field. Endless golden. The grass swayed gently in the breeze, rippling like an ocean of light. Above, the sky was blue, so blue it hurt my eyes to look at it. The sun was warm, kind, wrapping me in a softness I hadn't felt in years. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing, watching, letting the peace sink into my bones. And then I heard her voice. Mom. I spun around, my heart leaping. Sarah. She stood a few feet away, her pilot's uniform scorched, her hair disheveled, her face streaked with tears. But she was alive. Real. I ran to her, arms trembling, legs weak, yet fueled by something stronger than fear. I grabbed her, pulled her into my chest and sobbed. She clung to me, shaking. I thought I lost you. I thought I... No, I whispered, pressing my face into her hair. I'm here. I'm right here. And I'm not letting go again. We stood like that for what felt like forever, mother and daughter, the nightmare dissolving into nothingness around us. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because peace, true peace, wasn't given. It had to be earned. Sarah, I said softly, pulling back to look into her eyes. Do you remember the fire from when you were a little girl? The one in our kitchen? She frowned. Yes, you said it was an accident. A candle. I swallowed hard. The weight of the truth pressed against my chest, but this time, I didn't turn away. It wasn't an accident. And the fire that night wasn't the first one. I lived through one as a child. My father, he said it. He tried to burn us alive. And I buried that memory. Buried it so deep it twisted into something else. Something that followed me, haunted me. Sarah's eyes widened. She didn't speak. She just held me tighter. I exhaled shakily. I created my own shadow. My fear. My shame. That's what all of this was. That's what those doubles were. Pieces of me I refused to face. But I faced them now. I remembered. And I let the fire carry me instead of destroy me. Sarah's lips trembled, but she nodded slowly. So it's over? I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But then I felt it. The ground beneath us trembled, faint but certain. The sky flickered, a thin crack splitting the blue into darkness for just a moment before sealing again. I knew what it meant. The fire was not gone. It never would be. I had escaped it, for now, but it lived in me. In every memory, in every scar, in every nightmare that would surely return when I closed my eyes. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I turned to Sarah, forcing a smile through my tears. It's not over. But it doesn't have to be. Because I'm not alone anymore. And neither are you. She nodded, gripping my hand. We'll face it together. The wind picked up, carrying the faintest whisper. Margaret. I closed my eyes. For the first time I didn't flinch. I didn't run. I just breathed. When I opened them again, Sarah and I were walking forward, hand in hand, into the golden field. The fire behind us smoldered, waiting, watching. But it no longer owned me. It was part of me. And I would carry it, not as a curse, but as a reminder. A reminder that even in the darkest flames, we can still rise.